The abduction. Petty Officer First Class Jack Reiner floated weightless beneath the Pacific waves, 30 meters below the surface. The ocean pressed in on all sides, cool and vast, silent except for the hiss of his rebreather. His HUD displayed depth, oxygen, and a flickering beacon he was meant to recover, some kind of black box from a downed satellite. A routine operation. Quiet, easy. Then everything went wrong. His comms went dead. Not garbled, just gone. Even his heartbeat monitor flatlined. Reiner froze, instinctively checking his gear, but the equipment hadn't failed. Something had shut it all off. The water around him began to shimmer, like heat waves distorting the deep. A low-frequency hum vibrated through his ribs. He reached for the emergency ascent handle. Too late. Light exploded around him. Not white or yellow, but blue, a pulsing electric color that drilled into his brain. His vision tunneled. His limbs stiffened. Something was pulling him up, no out. Then nothing. Jack woke up flat on a cold surface, the air dry and metallic, the ceiling above him glowing with a dim purple hue. No stars. No pressure of water. No ocean. He sat up fast. The room was empty, clean, and utterly alien. His SEAL training kicked in like second nature. Assess, orient, decide, act. Steel gray walls. Hexagonal design. No visible doors. One camera. He stood. His dive gear was gone. He was stripped to a base layer of fatigues, barefoot, but uninjured. The air tasted sterile, filtered and recycled. Then a section of wall hissed open. A creature walked in. 9 feet tall, bipedal, with skin like polished obsidian. 4 glowing eyes in AV pattern. Armor made of segmented bone or metal. Jack couldn't tell which. The creature looked him over like a piece of meat. Human specimen, stable. It rasped in a voice that sounded like gravel being ground through a turbine. It tapped on a floating slate. Primitive. No exoskeleton. Weak bone mass. Low resistance rating. Jack didn't speak. He didn't blink. He memorized the creature's joints, the length of its stride, and the fact that its right hand lingered on the slate. Nervous, maybe. 2 more creatures flanked the first, guards clearly. Their armor looked heavier. One had a blade attached to its forearm. The first creature spoke again, this time with condescension curling around every syllable. You have been selected for trial in the arena of might, as is tradition. You will fall quickly. Your death will entertain the worthy. Then they left, the door sealed behind them with a hiss. Jack exhaled slowly. Arena of might? Sounded like some kind of gladiator pit. He moved to the corner and sat cross-legged. His brain worked fast, stacking facts, projecting outcomes. He was no stranger to impossible odds. SEALs didn't survive by being stronger. They survived by being smarter, faster, and always 3 steps ahead. They thought he was weak. Good. Let them think that. Hours passed, or what felt like hours. No food, no water, no indication of time. Then at last, a low rumble signaled movement. The room shifted, tilted. A doorway opened. Jack rose in silence. 2 guards escorted him through twisting corridors that pulsed with alien architecture. He caught glimpses of other prisoners, some massive, others insectoid, one that looked like a floating jellyfish. All eyes followed him, amused or pitying. He didn't return the stares. He memorized exit routes, door access points, guard formations. Every hallway, every potential weakness. They led him into a vast antechamber filled with blue light and roaring sound. A gate stood before him, sealing off a massive arena. He could hear the crowd, already thousands, maybe more. The walls trembled with their anticipation. Above the gate, alien glyphs glowed with his name and something else. An introduction? A death notice? A voice echoed through the chamber. Robotic but theatrical. Introducing. Specimen number 8791. Designation, human. Combat experience, primitive military. Odds of survival, 0.004%. The gate began to rise. Jack cracked his neck once, rolled his shoulders, and stepped forward. He didn't know what was coming. He didn't know who or what they'd throw at him. But he knew this. He'd trained for worse. He'd survived worse. And whoever thought this was going to be a show, they were right. Just not the kind of show they expected. The arena of blood. The gate rose with a grinding snarl, flooding Jack's senses with light and sound. He stepped into the arena, sand crunching beneath his bare feet, alien heat rising off the ground. The sky above wasn't a sky. It was a high, domed ceiling projecting artificial sunlight and blue clouds. Thousands of alien spectators loomed in tiered rows, shouting in voices he didn't understand. A sensory assault of smell, color, and vibration. A crude weapon lay on the sand before him. 1/2 meter of jagged black alloy, shaped like a short sword. Meant to be primitive, mocking. He picked it up anyway, feeling its weight, flipping it once in his hand. Not balanced, not built for precision. That was fine. He didn't need precision. The announcer's voice rang through the chamber again, booming in some twisted blend of synthetic growl and alien language. Above Jack, a massive projection of his face flickered on a translucent screen. Specimen number 8791. Human, cold-blooded mammal. Declared unfit for induction. Let his final breath entertain the worthy. The opposite gate thundered open. A mountain stepped through. 10 feet tall, easily. The Kragorian warborn looked like a nightmare sculpted in muscle and plated bone. For arms, each the size of tree trunks. Spikes jutted from its shoulders. Its skin glistened with a purplish oil that steamed slightly in the light. And it held a glaive the size of a motorcycle. The crowd erupted into a frenzy. Screams. Cheers. Bloodlust. Jack didn't move. He didn't blink. He watched. The Kragorian snarled something guttural and charged, each step shaking the ground. The distance between them closed fast. 10 meters. Jack shifted his stance low and steady. 5 meters. He calculated the angle of attack. The glaive would come from overhead. Big weapons always did. Too much momentum to stop, but slow on the recovery. 1 meter. The beast raised its glaive and roared. Jack moved. He stepped inside the arc, ducking under the downward slash, feeling the wind of the blade slice past his ear. He dropped to one knee, his blade flashing upward. Not to kill. Not yet. To cut. To probe. The Kragorian screamed in pain as Jack's strike found a weak point. The soft joint where the armored bicep met the lower shoulder. Greenish-black blood sprayed across the sand. It swung again and raged. Jack rolled to the side, staying low, legs pumping. He moved like a predator, calculated, surgical, patient. The third strike came wild and high. Jack used it. He launched upward, sliding across the creature's thick arm, and drove his blade, angled precise, into a small cavity just beneath the Kragorian's left pectoral. Not the heart, but something important, maybe a lung. The warborn howled spun, too slow. Jack was already behind it. He struck low, one fast blow to the back of the knee joint. The Kragorian buckled. Jack pounced. In one smooth motion, he leapt onto its back, hooked his arm around its throat, and plunged the blade into the side of its neck, right between the gaps in the armor plating. He twisted. The monster convulsed once, then collapsed. 3 seconds, maybe 4 if you counted the landing. Silence. Not just quiet, but stunned dead silence. The crowd didn't know what to do. Thousands of aliens, bred for conquest and violence, sat frozen in their seats. Jack stood over the body, blood steaming off the blade. He turned toward the nearest camera, eyes locked. He wiped the blade on the Kragorian's own furred cloak, then raised it slightly, not in triumph, but in challenge. The silence broke. It started as a ripple, then erupted into absolute chaos. Some spectators screamed in fury. Others shrieked in fear. A few, disturbingly, cheered. A flurry of alien drones zipped into the arena, scanning the Kragorian's corpse, confirming the kill. High above in the command tower, Commander Threx stared at the data feed in disbelief. "Out," he whispered. It was impossible. No human should. Beside him, a technician swallowed nervously. It seems the human targeted neural gaps and cardiac nodes. He knew where to strike. Threx narrowed his eyes. He's not a brute. He's trained. Tactical. Controlled. Back in the arena, guards approached cautiously, weapons raised. Jack dropped the blade and raised his hands. Let them think he was compliant. Let them get close. Let them take him back. He still had work to do. Weapon of Earth. Jack sat cross-legged in his cell, wrists shackled in front of him. He wasn't worried. The cuffs were advanced, magnetically sealed, but he'd already spotted the power junction that fed them. He only needed the right moment. The guards watched him now from behind reinforced glass. They didn't laugh anymore. He'd been scanned, poked, prodded. One alien had tried to take a blood sample and flinched when Jack stared too long. Fear. Real fear. That was new. Across the ship, the arena kill feed replayed on loop. The Krogorian Warborn's brutal, 3-second defeat. Millions had watched. Billions, maybe. The image of a human ending one of the Imperium's champions with nothing but instinct and a crude blade was now galactic history. Commander Threx stood before a tribunal of his own superiors, members of the Zarn Imperium's ruling caste, cold-blooded elites whose faces remained hidden behind holographic veils. He reported with precision. The human is not a standard specimen. He exhibits behavioral irregularities, restraint, tactical calculation, and the ability to resist fear stimuli. A voice, cold and synthetic, replied, "Primitive species do not perform like this." Is he genetically modified? Threx hesitated. No, he is trained, indoctrinated. Their species maintains a warrior caste they call Navy SEALs. The tribunal murmured behind their filters. Purpose: covert combat, high-risk engagement, survival in hostile environments. Interesting, dangerous. This one should be terminated. Threx paused. That may be unwise. Explain. It is becoming a symbol. The tribunal fell silent. Back in his cell, Jack had already begun building a network. Quietly, patiently. The Zarn had made one mistake. They underestimated his voice. Through slits in the walls, he whispered to other captives, aliens like him, stolen from their worlds and thrown into the arena. Some responded with curiosity. One, a three-eyed reptilian named Vorik, responded with interest. "You kill Krogorian," Vorik rasped. "You move like Hunter." Jack leaned closer. "I kill because I had to, but we can do more than survive here." Vorik's eyes blinked independently. "You speak like leader. That is forbidden." Jack smiled. "Then they really don't understand humans." He taught them basic tactics in secret, using crumbs, marks on the walls, even blinking codes. Vorik learned fast. Others followed. Fighters who had never known coordination or strategy began to see the value in unity. They shared intel, guard rotations, structural weaknesses, maintenance routines. Jack absorbed it all like a sponge. Within days, a plan began to form. But Jack wasn't just preparing for escape. He was testing limits. Psychological, not physical. The guards had grown more cautious. No more jeers. No more baiting. He watched them watching him. Fear turned to uncertainty. On the 5th day, Commander Threx visited in person. He stood outside the cell, eyes locked on Jack. "You are not what we expected." Jack didn't answer. Threx tilted his head. "Do you understand what you've done? You've disrupted a ritual that has stood for generations." Jack finally spoke, voice calm. "Ritual built on slavery and spectacle. You were supposed to die." Jack stood. "You kidnapped the wrong man." Threx studied him in silence. "Then, what is a Navy SEAL?" Jack didn't blink. "A human weapon. One you can't control." A long pause. Threx turned to leave, but paused. "They want you dead. Another match. Soon. Stronger opponents. They believe fear will restore order." Jack smiled. "Let them send whoever they want." Later that cycle, Vorik whispered through the wall again. "They come soon. For you." Jack nodded to himself. "Perfect." He walked to the corner, dropped to the floor, and began his breathing exercises, slowing his heart rate, visualizing the fight ahead. Every detail, every movement, not for survival, for the message. He didn't need to win the next fight. He needed to ignite a spark. And sparks, Jack knew, could start fires. The spark ignites. The arena lights dimmed. A pulse rippled through the air as a holographic banner blazed overhead, crimson letters flashing across the sky. Death Trial. Multi-species execution protocol. Jack stood once more at the gate, wrists unbound, body loose and calm. The crowd was louder this time, not cheering, not jeering, buzzing with electric anticipation. What had once been mockery was now curiosity. Fear. The announcer's voice boomed. Specimen number 8791. Human. Subject of high variance. To be executed via compound challenge. 3 champions. No rest. Jack exhaled. There it is. The message. Kill him publicly, bury the myth. Let them try. The gate opened. This time, the arena had changed. No smooth sand, jagged rocks, deep pits, razorweed thickets. They wanted chaos. They wanted pain. Jack scanned it all in an instant, filing escape routes, ambush points, and terrain traps in his mind. The environment was a weapon. He'd use it. Across the field, the first opponent emerged. A Rovikian mauler, 8 limbs, armor-plated hide, and a maw that opened vertically, revealing rows of bone-saw teeth. The crowd roared. Jack didn't flinch. He didn't charge. He waited. Let it come. The mauler moved fast, scuttling like a centipede on overdrive. Jack pivoted behind a rock pillar and timed his breath. The mauler rounded the stone, jaws wide. Jack dropped low, kicked off the pillar, and slammed both feet into its left knee joint, sending the creature sprawling sideways. Before it could recover, he grabbed a shard of jagged stone and jammed it into the exposed joint under its mandible. A deafening shriek. Then stillness. The crowd hesitated. One down. The second gate opened immediately. A Volnari razor-born stepped forward, sleek and serpentine, cloaked in blades. It didn't run. It slithered with deadly grace, twin plasma sickles glowing in its hands. This one was smart. Jack adjusted his breathing. The Volnari circled, testing range. Jack moved with it, keeping the angle tight. His pulse slowed. Then he moved. One step inside. The razor-born struck. Jack caught the wrist mid-swing, redirected the blade into the creature's own leg. As it hissed and recoiled, he ripped the second sickle from its hand, flipped it backward, and drove it through the base of the neck. The creature convulsed. Dropped. 2 down. No roar. No cheer. Just stunned silence. Then the final gate opened. Jack's breath caught. Not from fear, but memory. A human. No, not human. Modified. Taller. Broader. Armor fused to skin. Eyes glowing red. A twisted version of something that had once worn the same uniform as Jack. The announcer paused, then boomed. Specimen hashtag 8791B. Human derivative. Reconstructed for maximum efficiency. No empathy. No restraint. Jack stared. They made a monster from one of his own. The arena trembled. The clone moved fast, seal fast. Jack barely dodged the first strike, tumbling backward as a metal fist slammed the ground where his head had been. He scrambled, deflected, struck back. Nothing landed. The thing was relentless. It wasn't just strength. It was training. His training. The crowd leaned in. They sensed this was different. Jack fell into a rhythm. Step, deflect, break, counter. But nothing stopped it. Until Jack saw it. Hesitation. Not in the clone, but in the eyes. A flicker. A glitch. Something not fully erased. Jack disengaged and stood tall, lowering his guard. "What's your name?" he called. The clone paused. Jack stepped forward. "What's your rank?" Silence. Then a whisper distorted. "Petty. Officer. Second." Jack's voice hardened. "You were taken. Like me. But you're still in there." The clone's fists trembled. A flicker of rebellion. Then the override engaged. The clone screamed in agony as its body spasmed. Pain, not rage. Jack moved fast. He leapt in, dodged the wild swing, and plunged both hands into the control nodes fused into the clone's spine, ripping them free with a crackling hiss. The clone collapsed. Alive. The arena exploded in panic. Guards rushed the field. Drones zipped overhead. Jack didn't run. He turned to the cameras and pointed, not at the crowd, but at the fallen clone. "This is what you do to us. You take warriors. You make slaves. No more." His voice carried across every screen, every channel. The seed had been planted, and deep in the holding cells, Vorik and the others began to chant a single word in unison. Human.